And welcome to another episode of My Idaho Friends. I am your host, Jaime Lima, and as always, we are going live from the kick-ass, badass, the one and only Argos Productions. Big thanks to Justin, Erica, sweet baby James out in the back, always making sure that we're looking good, that we're looking fresh, and that everything is actually working. Lights, sound, video, the whole shebang. By the way, if you need any production work, Argos Productions is the place to be. If you're watching the stream or you have watched any of your shows before, make sure you look us up on our YouTube channel, like this video, subscribe, and if you look below, you'll see under the comments there's all the information that you need in order to link up with Argos Productions. They can make just about anything work out for you. So if you want to put out a commercial, some online content, some TV content, documentary, full feature film, whatever you need, Argos Productions is your one-stop shop. So, always grateful to them. And today, boy, do we have a treat. The name of the show is My Idaho Friends, and it's always super stoked when I get, to have a friend on the show. The one and the only, I always say that it's so cheesy, but it's worth it and it's awesome. Nathan Warner. Nate, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me, Jaime.
If that is your real name.
It is my.
Okay.
It is.
So we're good. So if you're watching, you're thinking like, hey, Jaime, what the fuck? It's not 6 p.m. That is my fault, fam. I showed up late to the studio because I was getting us some super awesome, super chill, fresh off the keg, Beer Island, Irish IPA.
I got the red one.
You got the red one?
I'm going for an Irish.
I'm going for Irish. So, yeah, St. Paddy's Day, my people. Not really. I'm not from Ireland. But it still works. I figure, we do it right. I do not know if this is a green beer or not.
It's okay, I think.
But it's an Irish beer.
We can just pretend it's green.
Let's just pretend it's green. It doesn't matter. There you go. The smell of that is green. So we're going to pour the thing. So I had the opportunity to swing by Bear Island right before we came over to the studio, and I'm happy to say that we're very, very busy.
It's good.
Not busy like crazy busy, unhealthy busy. Healthy busy. Keep it fresh, Idaho, and keep your 6 feet of separation. God damn it. Nathan, thank you for being on the show.
Salud, amigo.
Salud.
Thanks for having
Mi
me.
amigo, to you. Nathan,
Jaime.
we have it out of the social medias. We talked a little bit about your bio and all this other shebang. Tell the peoples who you are and what you do, please.
This camera?
You have that camera, but you don't have to feel pressure to look at one specific camera. The world's your oyster right here.
My name is Nathan Warner. I am from Los Angeles, California. I am a creative director, and I moved to Idaho about 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm. And you're a creative director with who?
Superbase. We are a design, branding, and strategy agency. So we focus on taking your business and trying to develop your brand and your messaging and who you are as a company and put you in a sort of aesthetic light that might promote you in a way to be more successful. So we do a lot of that by doing a lot of front-end research and looking into who you are as a company, who your market is, what you do, and how you do it. And we try and find the best solutions for you.
So as a full scope, that's what the company does. What does the creative director do specifically?
My role specifically is to work one-on-one with the client. I will meet with them and figure out sort of what their needs are. And then I will take that and I will do the research. And then I have 2 designers who I work with that I will work with them on trying to crank out either a logo or whatever sort of design assets that the company needs. And then my job when they're doing that is to help sort of facilitate the best possible solution. So as they're going through design iterations, I'll work with them on trying to figure out, maybe a certain color isn't working, or the composition of the design isn't working, or maybe we need to explore different types. And it's my job to kind of have a bit of a background information on it and like history and research of those sort of elements to refine down what the best possible solution would be.
So the businessy side of art.
Yeah. The businessy side of art.
Which there's nothing wrong with, because
No, that's
a great deal of awesome art
that's kind of always
that is involved in business.
Always been my role a little bit.
Yeah.
Back in LA, I used to run an artist collective, and so that was sort of my little shtick. Was I liked being creative, but I also liked figuring out like ways of promoting different artists or different people and kind of building upon that so that they were successful. And I've always kind of rode this fine line between being creative and I guess strategic. So left brain, right brain, somewhere in the middle. So
nicely balanced.
Yeah.
Not like totally like,
not like one side of the spectrum.
Yeah, exactly. Where you have like, because it always seems, actually, you know what, I'm not gonna feed into the stereotype because art is art and we need tons of it, and there's never enough of it, where there's like all styles and all types, but there's always like this whole thing in which like oh my gosh, like the struggling artist, when in reality it's just more about like just being true to yourself and your calling, doing what you have to do and taking the path that is not the path of least resistance, but the path that speaks to your heart. So
I think the struggling artist is an interesting one because it is a reality in the sense that struggling artists only struggle because they're really good at being an artist. And they're not good at like figuring out the business side or the like financial aspect of that, which is totally fair because when you're a painter or a drawer or a sculptor, like there's so many like facets that your brain is just not capable of, sort of understanding that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think if anything, we need to find a way to be more supportive for that.
Mm-hmm. And I'm so glad you brought that up because it's not just with artists, it's actually with anything and everything, It's like you could be an incredibly good architect, but if you wanted to, for some reason, not that it takes, only a tiny bit of work over several years of becoming an architect, and then you want to create your own firm.
Yeah.
Who's to say that you're a good business owner? Who's to say you're a good CEO or anything like that? Or with a shoemaker, or like somebody, that works with shoes. It's like, you're outstanding and like creating this product and maintaining this product, but who's to say that you understand the ins and out of launching a business and having it be successful?
It's hard.
Grow it, scale it, or whether that's going to be a legacy business for you and your family, or if you're going to sell it when the opportunity arrives.
Yeah. It's a hard thing to do, man.
We are going to dive on so much businessy stuff about the art. But before we get to that, I want to take us over to the past, but not before.
I just want to make sure that we have the right. It's superbase.co.
.co. Okay. Superbase.co. We got rid of the M. We thought it was a little redundant. Just kidding. There's no M's in there.
Erica, where's your green hair?
It was a filter.
It was a filter? I didn't know it was a filter. I don't know.
Time to go to the hairdresser.
I don't use filters. I don't know.
Where's your green hair, Jaime?
Somewhere else. Somewhere else. So, with that said, so we're going to touch back a little bit on, your journey. You've been now an Idahoan for the last 4 years because, you have setting some roots and you're doing some things. And as of right now, you're not going anywhere anytime soon. But where was Nathan Warner 10 years ago when, the whole California thing was happening? What were you doing back then?
10 years ago, I was 22. I was in my first year into my degree in design and technology. So I was in San Francisco. I was studying at the San Francisco Art Institute with design and technology. And in my courses, I was studying quite a wide variety of things. Before I had gotten there, I was at Santa Monica College in Los Angeles, and I was a fine art major doing painting. I had a sort of background studies in nutrition, and I was playing with the idea of psychology, but I kind of teetered away from that. I found myself kind of more between nutrition and art. And at the time, my professor was like encouraging me to make t-shirts. And so that kind of like instigated my wanting to do more design. And so when I transferred, I went into design and technology, and I started studying sort of a bunch of really interesting things. The school I went to was really highly conceptual. It had been there since 1877, and it was the oldest West Coast art school. But it didn't have a traditional curriculum. It was more like a liberal arts school where you could study a lot of different things and kind of figure out what you liked. And I was writing papers on the covers of Bon Appetit and how that related to the presidential election, or like who was president at the time in the current political climate. I was spending a lot of time doing a lot of research about sort of kind of like the role of technology in society, which was very interesting because at the time it was when Twitter and Facebook was moving into San Francisco. So it was like this weird kind of like serendipitous situation where I got to see this like technology take over a city and how that role is affected, you know, like how it affects human behavior and like the way that we interact with that. And then of course I was taking design courses, I was taking bookmaking courses, I was taking wood shop, metal shop. So I had this like really wide variety of courses I was taking, and all very like highly conceptual, which was really cool. And then from there I graduated, and I went on to, well, within the week of graduating, I got flown out to New York and started my first job out there and got stuck there for 2 months, and then ended up back in LA shortly after. So
all right, so East Coast for 2 months, back on the West Coast.
Yeah. City to city.
And, you know, and it's really cool. It's like, I'm going to touch on that with the whole moving around, but like looking back on something so conceptual, such a conceptual, you know, higher education, higher level of education, like, do you see that built a good base for what you do now?
Yeah, I mean,
your career, like a good foundation.
I mean, I guess to go a little further back, out of high school, I didn't apply to colleges. I didn't want to go to a 4-year university. I hopped in a van and traveled around the States with my buddy and his band. That's how I ended up here. And I met a bunch of guys here, and but when I got back, I was working in a print shop, and I decided that, you know, there was a college up the street, and so I decided to start going back. But what I appreciated about the difference between high school and college was that I had the ability to kind of pick and choose what I wanted. And if I didn't like something, I could explore something else. And I felt really kind of restrained by high school because I felt like I was being forced to take these classes in a way that it wasn't encouraging me or allowing me to explore and try other things. And so going to a conceptual art school was wild because there's so many different types of people. There are so many different programs that you could take. And I think what was really great about that is it gives you a broader sense of perspective. It allows you to think about things in a way that maybe somebody who is only an English major or an engineer, like you kind of have this very narrow focus out of high school that doesn't give you the ability to see like a broader spectrum. And so I think to my benefit, that's what I got out of it.
Nice. And it applies to the things that you do today.
Exactly.
So
Because we don't work specifically with one industry. Like we will work with a food company. We can also work with a engineering company.
Right.
So there's like the benefit to that is like there is a broad spectrum of industries, but design is always at the core of it because that's really how, as a society, we understand who you are as a business, and it's like a second language in that sense.
Yeah, and not to get too far ahead because I don't want to jump into the future, but you guys have worked with several different entities and companies. So when you're talking about not a specific industry, so you know, like, I'll let you say before. I don't want to name drop. I'll let you name drop.
All the companies I've worked with.
Yeah, you know, just to give, just so it makes sense as far as like what you're talking about right now.
I mean,
I'll embarrass you.
Please embarrass me.
Yeah.
I'm already going to turn bright red, my Irish self, on a St. Patrick's
As
Day.
you should.
Let's see. Out of high school, I worked for a magazine called LA Canvas. And that's sort of where I started, was editorial. And then I went into a bunch of different fashion companies. So American Apparel, BCBG Max Azria, Lucky Brand, DSTLD, Distilled Jeans. And then worked for a couple design agencies, California Pizza Kitchen, Jamba Juice, Kavita, Kombucha. And then I basically turned down an $80,000 a year offer from Lucky Brand to work for a snowboard company for $20,000 a year.
What, the whole bringing down the zipper, lucky you, that didn't do it for you?
No, I had always wanted to work in skateboards and snowboards, so I left Lucky Brand to go work for Arbor, the Arbor Collective, so they do skateboards and snowboards. And then from there I went to Wasserman, which handles athlete representatives for NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, soccer, Olympics, so on, sports.
Olympics, so on, sports. No big deal.
And then I gave it all up, and I moved here. And I thought I was going to work construction, and then I landed a gig with Albertsons here, and I did all the branding and design for the store, the Albertsons on Broadway and the one in the Eagle. Mm-hmm. And then now...
during the time they got fancy or before?
I did the fancy.
You did the fancy?
I did the fancy.
Did the, Whole Foods 2.0 Albertsons?
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it that, but, some people do.
Everyone I know here calls it fancy Albertsons.
Fancy Albertsons.
Yeah.
Everyone
I know.
Albertsons. So way back in the day when I lived with my grandparents, I lived on State Street between 21st and 19th, because there's no
right by the original Albertsons.
By the original Albertsons, and that was the thing. I would just walk over to Albertsons, and I just go with my grandparents and help them with the grocery shopping and come back. And all of a sudden, at 2 a.m, Grandpa wanted some grilled cheese.
So you're over there.
That's what he did, and all of a sudden it's we got no cheese for the grilled cheese, and he'll send me, just walk around over there. It was the best thing ever. And, several years later, I left Idaho and did the thing, and then came back, and all of a sudden there's an Albertsons when you can go shopping and you can put a wine glass on your cart. And I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
this is fancy.
And here I am. And it's the best idea ever, because you'd be surprised how much more you spend on groceries when you're drinking wine.
Oh, yeah. And having a bar upstairs because you didn't get enough.
Yeah, exactly. I bought, it was a bourbon syrup.
Yeah.
From the Albertsons on Broadway several months ago, and I mean probably pre-pandemic, that I'm yet to use because it said bourbon.
That's the only reason you bought it.
It's the only reason why I bought it. And the only reason I bought it is because I was drinking a big-ass glass of wine on that cart. Anywho, let's quit name dropping and let's pull us back a little bit.
Just need to adjust your mic.
Mike is about to get adjusted.
Hold, please.
This is the real shit, ladies and gents. I'm just saying, you get to see it live.
I love in TV shows and stuff where they
you can all of a sudden bumps it or whatever. No, yeah, and
that's my favorite thing.
So this mic is really good because it minimizes my accent. Best technology out there.
I'm interested to see how I sound.
So we did last year 32 episodes for season 1. This is episode 3, and I have watched a total of 3 episodes.
Oh, you don't even watch yourself?
Not including I was there, so I know exactly what
enough.
I talked about. But when I listen to myself talk, and I'm like, why doesn't somebody make me shut up? But nobody does. Back to you, because it's not about me.
No.
Nice try when you and your Albertsons wine. Shout out to Albertsons if you ever want to become a sponsor.
Albertsons
Just
wine.
saying.
So yeah,
You-
I've worked for a lot of big companies and
I
a
love
lot
it.
of different companies.
Yeah, and which is like super fun. I mean, I remember Lucky brand because that was like the thing. I had like one pair of Lucky brand jeans because my grandma picked them up from like the thrift store for me.
Yeah.
Because that's what we could afford, and that was like the hot noise when like little awkward, goofy, skinny
Is this
brown
middle
Jaime
school,
showed
Jaime?
up at Boise High in junior year of 1997
There
with
you
my
go.
Lucky brand. I was like, and one of I'm not gonna name drop, but it's like, oh my gosh, Jaime, you got some Lucky brand. They're so cool. If you just like unzip it, it says Lucky You. And I mean, she did that in the hallway, and I was like, yet another reason why I will never go back to Panama as a teenager, because that would have never happened back then.
No, it wouldn't have.
It's just very much an American thing.
Yes, it is.
So, yeah, kudos to her. That aside. So you finish high school, eventually you're like trying to figure your shit out, you go to school, and now all of a sudden you're hopping in a van with your friends who have a band. Was that right after high school or after
After high
college?
school. So I
after high
was
school. So let's touch on that.
19. I
Okay,
was 19 years old. My best friend Danny was in a hardcore punk band called the
Absolutely.
Orangeburg Massacre.
Why not?
Super awesome. They were signed to a sub-label of Warner Brothers called Pluto Records. And, after high school, he would be like, dude, we're going on a trip. Get in the van, let's go. And so I would sit there and sell their merch while they played and then just got to hang out and travel.
Yeah.
And it was cool. I thought after a couple trips, they were like, we're going to go do this U.S. tour. And we need someone to drive at night when we get hammered. And we need somebody to sell our merch when we're playing the show. Mm-hmm. I was like, cool, I'll be band mom. I'll take care of this. And up until that point, everything was good. And then all of their debt started sinking in. They were all broke. There was a lot of animosity between the band. And so this was like their final trip. Like, this was going to be it. And so we hopped in the van and we went everywhere west of the Mississippi except Oregon, Washington, Alaska, and Hawaii. So we traveled the states and basically went from town to town and played shows and slept in the van. Or if somebody offered us a place to stay, we would get a shower. But most often, I would find myself bathing in lakes or rivers because that was the only place we could get a shower.
Builds character.
Yeah.
I know a little bit about bathing in rivers. No big deal.
All the time now. I love it.
That's awesome. No, that's not. You honestly mean it. Like.
It was freeing. It was like awesome to feel like I had lived in LA and I had this kind of like crazy childhood. And I mean, not crazy, but just like living in LA at that time was pretty wild. It was still pretty like Wild Westy.
Yeah,
And,
I mean, for you, that would have been late 90s.
Yeah, like I was there
2000s.
during the Watts riots and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
So it was like,
Yeah.
it was kind of a crazy time.
Yeah.
And then everyone I went to school with was from South Central and Compton. So like
Right.
I was the only white kid. And like a lot of the
Right.
shit I experienced was like pretty
Perspective.
out
You know,
normal
and,
for, yeah.
and very culturally diverse.
Yeah, it was
As
awesome.
it should be.
And it was awesome. I totally am
yet
grateful
still
for it.
unique. Yeah, like.
But after doing that and feeling like I was going to high school because I had to and like not feeling like I was doing what I wanted to do, it was really liberating to get in a van and like travel around the States and just figure it out. And that was like one of the coolest experiences because we ended up here. And I remember very vividly, we had played a show in Boise the night before and we met a bunch of guys here and drove up to McCall. And I remember being asleep in the back of the van and waking up right at that chevron where it like, where it's like right off the lake. Yeah. I remember waking up and being in some short shorts and hopping out of the van and like it was middle of summer, so it was super hot. And I just remember like being super sweaty and looking over and seeing the lake and just being like, I'm jumping in that lake. I have to go jump in that lake. And so I go full sprinting across the way, off the dock into the lake, and then shortly thereafter everyone came after and we had this like awesome time just like hanging out and swimming for a while. And I remember that so vividly that the first year that I moved here, I went up to McCall in the winter, and I remember coming around that corner and seeing the chevron and having this like, holy moment, because
Yeah.
it was like it was like this place that I had like ingrained in my mind, and I hadn't been there, and the first time I had gone back, it was 10 years later. And I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah, I was just about to say, it's amazing how, like, you know, our minds and our hearts, they do that for us, you know. I mean, I don't want to introduce words into your story, but I have had that same feeling, and with Idaho specifically, and it was difficult for me to explain to some of my peers, you know, in my previous life chapter when I was doing other things, and I said, no, man, like, you don't understand, like I was trying to describe the Greenbelt to somebody. So over here, you know, like the river runs, you know, right across the city, and there is a pedestrian path, and also for bikes on either side for most of the length, all the way from one end to the other, and then some. And you take it for granted if you're from here until you go somewhere else, and it's like, man, I just want to like go for a walk, and have the nice comfort of like this random little gust of like cooler like river breeze during the summer. Well, it's still 90 something degrees, but I'm not burning because I have the canopy of trees like, covering me, and I also don't have to worry that I'm gonna get jumped or mugged or anything.
There's nothing to worry about.
and like describing that to like my friends from like New Jersey or Philly or anything like that, like you know, like friends from Chicago, and they're like, Jaime, like, what the fuck? Like,
you're living in a dream, Jaime.
You're living in a dream. And I was like, no, man, like, motherfuckers will be floating in the river.
This is real.
Drunk. Holding hands. Because we're like, don't drown, you stupid idiot. Right down, slam another beer, you know. But yet still everybody's conscious enough to keep their PBRs inside their place. And it's like this combination of, like, environmentally, like, savvy, you know, not trying to, like, pollute, but at the same time being a jackass, and you're just walking.
It's a fine line.
Yeah, and it's tricky. So I get it, because that was it for me. And then, you know, having those experiences when you're explaining to somebody who perhaps has never left like the concrete jungle, right? And it's like just like yeah, there's this huge body of water, and I'm gonna jump in it.
Yeah.
There's a big there's a lot of freedom in that, and it's hard to explain, but I'm glad you experienced that and clearly made an impact on you.
Yeah, I mean, we were fortunate that my dad grew up kind of outside of LA, and like, you know, he had a lot of nature experience, and we got to do a lot of that when we were growing up, which is cool because there's some amazing stuff around LA.
Right. Yes.
It's cool to go do. But you know, I moved up here. One, because it was like one of the only places where I knew somebody, and my parents had retired up in Sequim, Washington, so it was cool to be closer to them. I could still get a lot of the outdoor activities that I loved, and still be in like a small enough city and be able to do a lot of what I love, because after college, when I got home, I was doing a lot of camping and backpacking outside of LA, and I remember specifically going from this takes me 45 minutes to this takes me 2 hours, and being like, I can't sustain the things that I love anymore because it's just impossible.
Yeah, the lifestyle and the quality of life, because like you're spending so much time of it in the car. Right. And yeah, it's like the end state is worth it, but if you could minimize that by half or even more so, like, why not?
Totally.
Yeah, and I get that, and that's a lot of here, like a lot of people complain. It's like, oh, we got all these people coming from all over the place, and like, you know, California gets the brunt of the hate. But, you know, no offense, Idaho, but a lot of natives here, you know, don't actually appreciate it until they leave, and a lot of natives don't leave.
I can't tell you how many times I've heard that.
And it's just like, bro, like, you know, like, you have it so good. They were like, I had somebody complain to me, like, oh my gosh, Jaime, I was stuck in traffic for 15 minutes. I remember being stuck on the 15 in California, just thinking to myself, what am I doing with my life, and how do these people do it every day? Because I was always trying to exit 29 Palms in order to get to Mission Beach,
I used to have to.
had to fight that on rush hour traffic, and it just tears your soul apart.
Right.
And I would only have to do it once a week during the time that I wasn't like overseas or doing other stuff. And I was like, people have to do this every day, and it was just awful.
Yeah, I hated it. When I got back to LA after college, I was driving from over by LAX to downtown LA, and it took me hour and a half, 2 hours, which isn't bad. It's normally a 45-minute drive without traffic.
Yeah.
But I got good at like taking back streets, and I would sometimes like I knew a bunch of guys with like a gallery in a warehouse downtown that I would sometimes just like I'd literally like sleep in this empty warehouse like in a sleeping bag and go to work in the morning because it was just easier.
Yeah, because why wouldn't you?
Well, and I'd just like go, downtown and get drinks with them sometimes and be like, I'm not gonna go home. I'll just like I have an extra pair of clothes in the car. I'll just like put them on and go to work.
Yeah, it's part of the lifestyle, part of the life.
Yeah.
So, you did the band thing. You went ahead and you move around and you're doing all the things, and then eventually you make your way over here. You make the decision to come back to Idaho. You fell in love with it 4 years ago. What happened 4 years ago? You get here. Did you have a plan? Was it already like, oh man, like I have this like this career opportunity lined up, or I'm just gonna put like some elbow grease and figure it out? What happened?
Let's see. Around that time, before I moved here, I was actually showing my artwork down in Tijuana a lot, and I had taken a job with the agency Wasserman doing a lot of the sports athlete stuff, and moved down to Encinitas in California.
Your street cred is like, you just name drop Tijuana, like no big deal, and then like Encinitas, like places that I've been to, by the way, and it's just like I have no street cred there because I just visited it and I was like,
yeah, no, I spent a lot of time down there. I mean, I got really fortunate that I got to spend a lot of time, Northern California, Central, and Southern.
Yeah.
Like I got the whole breadth of it, which was cool.
Right.
But yeah, like I was down there quite a bit, and I was like going down to Tijuana and hang out with friends, or I'd like, whatever. But I was dating this girl down in Encinitas, and I eventually ended up moving down there with her for 6 months, I think it was. And it was around the time my parents were selling their house, and they moved up north, and so I was kind of like, why am I here? Like, what am I doing here? Like, why?
Why am I in Encinitas?
Like, I don't have anything holding me here. I want to be closer to my family. And it's really hard to get to the mountains from here. So, like, what am I doing? And so I called a couple of my friends out here and was just like, can I sleep on your couch for a while I get sorted? So broke up with the girl, asked my job if I could work remotely, and got in my car and lived out of it for like 2 or 3 weeks. And then moved up here and lived in a little trailer park for a while.
Hell yeah. Did the thing and made it happen. You see, that's cool because here's the reason why I wanted you to share that. There's this, even right now, so when you look at the housing market, right, everybody goes like, oh my God, they're just coming over here.
Buying all our houses.
Buying all our houses and taking all our girlfriends and our boyfriends. And some of it is true. But at a very low like percentage, because more often than not, when you have somebody like moving over here, they're still trying to figure it out.
Right.
They're still trying to get away, whether it's like, from like a negative situation, whether that might be some sort of like socioeconomic environment, whether it will be just like, I need more access to the outdoors. I had a taste of it. I jumped in a lake and I want to have the ability to do that like twice a week if I feel like it. And there's a lot of freedom left over here. Like a lot of people talk about, well, you mentioned earlier, like, back in the 90s, still the Wild West. But over here, still, you get to experience some of the Wild West. We're not perfect. There's a lot of fucked up shit going on over here. But we also have a lot of good things going on. And I understand and I see the attraction. I mean, as somebody who immigrated here on Christmas of 94, I was like, yeah. And as somebody who's had conversation with people that have moved here from far more diverse communities and their struggle
Mm-hmm.
with like finding identity and finding community
Yeah.
and finding a place in which like they can belong, even though there's all these positive things, sometimes they're not enough. I think it's unfair, and I get it, yeah, life is not fair, but it's also unfair to say and point out to a specific group of people moving over here saying like, oh man, you're just making it worse for all of us, when in reality it's just like, you know, yeah, there's the 1% that like influence things in a negative way. For more often than not, it's
Yeah.
people just like you and I who are trying to just like find like a better way and
Just be happy.
to just be happy.
Yeah.
And there's a lot that Idaho offers for that.
Yeah.
With that said, you're working remotely, you're warming up some couches,
Yeah.
you're doing the trailer thing, and then eventually at one point in time, you clearly, I'm going to fast forward just a tiny bit, link up with a little bit of some like
Idaho natives.
Idaho natives.
That's honestly
Arts
the
folksy
only people I
community.
met here. It's the only people I met here when I moved here.
Yeah.
And it was because I knew Idaho natives before I moved here. And that was sort of to my benefit, I think.
You were in. You got invited. You got
Yeah.
invited to the cookout.
I was whittling a potato with a knife once, and someone said, "Cool, you get your free Idaho pass. Like, you're good, dude." That was like the best thing I've ever heard.
This guy turned a potato into a little bear that you can put in front of your little Porsche or little driveway, whatever you want. Until some raccoon comes and eat it, because we got plenty of those. Freaking trash pandas all over the place. There's people here that keeps them as pets. That's like another thing. Like people like from like outside. I think Idaho is like it's like this unique like Northwest long lost twin of some areas in the South.
Right.
Where,
I
like,
totally agree with
like
that.
in the South, like don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to like pass any hate on the South.
No, the
'Cause
South
I
has
visited, I have
some
great deal of
amazing
friends,
things, yeah.
you know, I've always had a great time when I was visiting in Savannah, Georgia, or I was all the way down in Key West. So if you're going to talk about South, you know, but there's an area in between, you know, and places like Texas and like, you know, and some other places, or you go down into like South Carolina, and it's just like, you know, like people have like a possum,
Yep.
you know, and they like, you know, but like over here we got the raccoons, you know. It's
I've met plenty of people in all states, in a lot of different states.
and it's just like it's,
I've met people in California with raccoons, and I've met people in
Fair enough.
California with possums.
that
Like,
is true, yeah, because I, you know,
There's a raccoon and a possum lover in every state that wants them as a
that
pet.
is true. That is true. I think, you know, 29 pounds between like between the meth and the lizards. I was just like, fuck, bro. Like, where am I? I just like, it just seemed like a scene of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas every weekend. This is bad country. You know, swatting shit. As your attorney at law. Anyway, I'm showing my age. What I'm trying to say, this is a unique and awesome place, and we're happy to have you here. And, you know, I'm happy to be here, and I'm always just saying that, you know, if you have an open heart and you understand where people are coming from, what they're trying to do, we all benefit from it.
Totally. Well, I guess to like piggyback on that,
Do it.
I have lived in a lot of places where I have seen people come in and increase the rent and push people out. And I've seen it a lot in my hometown, in San Francisco, in New York. I've seen it in a lot of cities. And it's heartbreaking because I remember being like, after college, I think I was like 25, I was like, man, I wish I could buy a house here. Like, I wish I could live in my neighborhood.
Right.
And I hear my girlfriend say that all the time. She's from Boise. She grew up here. She goes, I wish I could buy a house in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
And that sentiment is like soul crushing. Like, I
Yeah.
get it. Like, I've been there. I understand that. And I will say the fact that, like, when I moved here with that understanding. And I moved here knowing that I'm not here to change something, because in the same breath that an agency that I worked at, I remember a guy because we lived in Venice before we moved into the neighborhood I primarily grew up in. But I had a lot of friends who grew up there, and I like knew the culture and like the identity of the area really well. And this guy from New York had moved here, started an agency, and was buying up property in the area. And I remember him pitching to a client, yeah, Venice is this, Venice is that. And I just remember sitting there like grinding my teeth being like, you don't know what you're talking about. Like you are like an outsider trying to perceive what this community is about. And that's not fair to the community. And I remember that so vividly that when I moved here, my intention was, I am not here to change your community. I am here to understand it. I am here to make it better. And I am here to promote it because that's what everyone loves about this place. And that's what I love about this place.
You are not here to package it, to label it, and sell it to the highest bidder.
I don't want that. I want to remain what is beautiful about this place.
Yeah, because otherwise, why then move
Why are you here?
Oh, okay. We did the full circle. We did it. Well played. So I am so glad that you shared that because that just brought all the warm and fuzzies. We are now going to pitch, and we're going to take a little bit of a 90-degree angle on this because this is exciting. Talking about identity. I'm talking about, what we were just talking about, packaging and labeling with your experience in Venice, California, and now where we're at right now. I don't mean to embarrass you, but you have now, in the 4 years that you've been here, you have done, in my opinion, a very good job of catching the pulse. I had to do this. I don't know why I did that. Catching the pulse, of our city, or and of our fine state here, the gem state in Idaho, and at least with like the most known project that you have touched, which is Treefort. And for the agency that you're working on, it's just being familiar into what it is that it reaches and touches people that partake with the music festival, which I know I'm not only speaking for myself. This is how you know the beer is kicking. Because the accent gets thicker and things are just like...
Do we need a water break?
No. This is live, baby. We're going down to the loony bin together.
Right.
But yeah, what has that experience been like? Where do you pull your inspiration when you are pushing this image that not only locals enjoy, but people from out of state that come for the music festival? And by the way, if you're watching and you don't know what Treefort is, just Google it, because we have done a number of episodes and we have touched on that.
Google it.
Use the Google or Yahoo it if you're old school like my wife.
She uses Yahoo?
She uses Yahoo. And if you really want to be weird, Bing it.
Bing it.
Bing it. B-I-N-G. Or
Dogpile.
If you're like me. Oh God, you're really throwing it back. Or if you're one of those guys or gals or they that like is not comfortable with people watching DuckDuckGo. With that said,
Ask Jeeves.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sorry.
So as you work on this massive project, which is very community driven and is so intertwined with local artists and then also artists that come from outside of Idaho, not just from within the U.S., from all over the world. Mm-hmm. How are you able to grasp all that information, pull inspiration from it, and then deliver a final product? Very loaded question. That was a big one. I just want to shut up and drink my beer. Go ahead.
No, that's fair. To be fair, I don't want to take a lot of the credit for what is going on currently with Treefort, as in I am manifesting someone else's vision. So I am purely, to this point, helping them push along a lot of the ideas and designs that they've had.
Okay.
But year 10, I am doing a big push as far as like a bit of a rebrand, which during the pandemic was a beautiful time to kind of take a sidestep and say like, what have we been doing for the last 10 years? What is successful? What is the things that are iconic? What are the things that are the most important to this? purely from an iconography standpoint, and messaging. Like, that's sort of where we focus with the agency. But I don't know. Tree Fort is like something that I am very passive on. It's something that I work on. It's something that I help with because I like the community aspect of it. But my role in the last, I don't know, 2 or 3 months, since November, I've been working with James Lloyd. Shout out James Lloyd. He's the illustrator. He does a lot of the work, and he has been doing all the work for the last 10 years, 9 years. So really, I am leaning on him as sort of inspiration because he's been the vision for it, right?
Right.
My role as being a creative director and, working in branding is how do we take that to the next level where Tree Fort gets to be iconic, it gets to be recognized, it gets to maintain this consistency in a way that allows it to be more successful in the future. And so really that's kind of where I'm at now. And when we went through that process of establishing the brand, which isn't even out yet, so no one will see it maybe for another 2 years.
Oh gosh.
Which is my job in a nutshell.
Yeah. 2 years, no big deal.
But
Patient.
what I'm doing in that situation is really trying to establish, what is the heritage of the brand? What is successful about the brand? What are the things that people recognize about it? What makes it notable? I think there's a really good example right now that just has surfaced and actually has been talked about quite a bit, but Burger King just rebranded.
Okay, yeah.
And they didn't go forward with a new brand. They went backwards with an old brand that they had done into the 90s, I believe.
Did they just, are you saying that Burger King brought back mom jeans?
I mean, I feel like...
Not that there's anything wrong with that, because you ladies wear whatever the heck you want. You do you, boo. I'm not here judging.
I mean,
I'm saying you wear it and you own it.
They definitely went a little more nostalgic.
And men and they. But I just say, like you know how like things have like a, it's almost like
cyclical.
recycling, right? Like,
but it's different. Like you have to think. There's something important about branding in the sense that you have to think about if you're going to rebrand or reestablish yourself. You need to think about where did we come from? Where is our heritage? Where did that start? Where is the future of that? Mm-hmm. What does the market look like in 10 years? But you also need to think about, on top of that, how does this function on like a mobile phone? How does this function on a big banner? And so you have to think about the scalability of it. Yeah. And so that's something new in branding that I think is becoming more prevalent in the last like 5 years that no one was really ever thinking about. And I think that's what's cool about doing this Tree Fort project is like, okay, how do we take the logo and everything associated with it? How do we simplify it? How do we tie it back to the origins and the history of Tree Fort? How do we look at the story that it's told up to this point, and how do we build upon it?
Does the message remain the same?
It should. It should always remain the same.
With Tree Fort, and I don't mean to steal words that are not my own, but Tree Fort is for everyone.
Right. No, we've decided that Tree Fort is for no one anymore.
Oh.
I'm just kidding.
And here we are.
No,
there's the door. Thank you for coming.
No, it's still for everyone. It's still for everyone. It should remain that way. It
Right.
should be like that's what's cool about it is it's not like...
And I agree, because a lot of these other music festivals, and not to paint, or California or some other places, Oregon and Washington, in a bad light, where in which like their music festivals is like, oh, like this is the cool place to be,
Right.
And there's limited to all of this, and of course you're like, your super rich / influencer friend was able to get like the first 50 tickets for everybody, and nobody else could get them, so screw you.
Yeah.
So over here, inclusivity is at the center of everything.
Yeah. And those are conversations we have in the design process is how do we make it more inclusive? How do we set it up in a way where it's not, we're not like leaning on things like gender. We're being more fluid with that. We're being more understanding of people
Absolutely.
in the trans LGBTQ community and all of that sort of stuff. It's
Yeah.
like we want everyone to feel invited, and we don't want to. We want to be thoughtful and intentional about the content we're releasing to do that.
It is a crazy thing. So my 6-year-old, and he just recently became 6-year-old, and like he doesn't think of Treefort as Treefort, but he thinks of it as the Fort Festival because you have, you know, what was it, like Kid Fort, like the aspect of it in which, like, you know, there's all these like boxes and, you know, on cardboard, and you're making a fort, literally, on this huge parking lot with other children and whatever, and then you just let your kids go wild, and he's just wondering, he's like, Daddy, when are we gonna go to the Fort Festival? And it's a wild thing because clearly last year it didn't happen.
Yeah.
But the year before, I had the ability to go and dive into Treefort early, like really early. And I brought my oldest with me, Uriah, the littlest nugget, well, nugget now because he's 6, and then he's got a younger brother. And we got to have this amazing one-on-one time in which I was able to take him through all the art stuff, like, you know, like the
exhibit.
one of the exhibits, what's over by where the Waihi Plaza was at, and he came over with me also as well when we were listening to like all the NPR type stuff, that, you know, like the inclusivity and talking, you know, about like all the literature projects that were coming out, and some of the oh gosh, I don't want to sell them short, and I'm trying to like really bring back down memory lane. But to me, it was special because my son got to spend that early Treefort time with me, and an early Treefort is a very selective crowd because there's no music. There's not like all these like loud partying or whatever.
Right.
A lot of it has to do with like local artists and artists from out of town.
Yeah.
You know,
lectures, stories.
lectures
yeah,
and stories. Storyfort. Thank you so much, because Erica over here from Argos Productions, like
we talked about that.
she was helping with that. She was talking about that. Yeah, and like there's a picture of Erica and I and my son. You know, our producer here, Erica, because it was just one of those things like Storyfort, like, and they were, now I remember, like sharing stories from refugees and people from that, you know, like a lot of people might or might not know, like Boise has a very, well, Idaho as a whole, you know, because Twin Falls does a really good job on this too. Like, you brings in a great deal of that refugee population. And again, it just makes us better.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it makes us better. And a lot of these people sharing their stories, and it was just like really amazing. It was really cool to have my kid. And of course, you know, at the time he was 5. And perhaps he's not going to remember the content, but he's going to remember the time.
The experience.
And the experience that he spent with me. And
so
for me, just the same way you were explaining that time, it's like, you know, you jump in the lake. I have that very same experience, but like that with the outdoors, but now, because between you and I, you know, I'm an adultier adult, and that's very like, you know, that I'm really fucking with that term, because perhaps you're adult better than I do, but I'm a little bit older than you. Yeah. And I have the children, you know, and things like that, and that's like my like story now. So all these other things, my individual selfish stories have taken a back seat because I have these stories with my children in which is just like, oh my gosh, like my kid experienced it, but I was there because I brought him there and he experienced that. So I'm very much looking forward to what it is that you specialize in and the work that you do, which is the messaging.
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, I am a drop in the pond of Treefort. Like,
I know that, and I know that, and I appreciate you being so humble about it.
No, it's, I mean...
So, and you know, when eventually we're going to be, so very early in my Idaho Friends, when we got done with the pilots and then the pandemic started and we had to do the interviews from my basement, you know, we had Drew, our friend Drew Lorona, one of the original OGs of Treefort, and I was going to have him on again, and then he's like, no, man, you got to get Megan. Yeah,
so, Megan.
Yeah, and she will be on eventually, and like knock on wood, and it's going to be awesome, and we're going to be talking about all those things.
Yeah, Megan's the person, I'm just the kind of like, and she'll probably attest to this, I'm the pushback that's like, we got to do this better. And I'm just
Yeah.
the like dude who like ruffles the feathers and makes sure we're doing it right, as I like to think about it. But
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. And it's just one of those things in which like, yeah, I'm trying to like.
what are you doing there?
People
Jaime?
are interacting with like what
Are
we're
they-
saying, and I'm trying to send out a heart to Joyce.
Joyce,
Is this
we're
on
sending
yours?
you a heart.
Joyce,
Is this
Sending
on
you
my
a heart.
phone or on yours?
it's on mine.
Okay.
It's on mine. If you're saying Joyce and a big old heart, so her husband was in my team and he was in my unit.
Oh,
Back
cool.
on, again, the previous chapter life, Big Joe.
Yeah.
Shout out to him. He was the only one. So you know you got all these like tough guys or whatever, but like I have a great deal of love for Joe because Joe was always a fighting man.
Mhm.
A lot of military.
Is he still a fighting man?
Oh, he is most certainly a fighting man. He's like, and it's just like, it's one of those things where him and I, one time we had to, it was our turn to go and, in lamer terms, had to keep an eye on all the ammo that we were going to be training on at this range. So we had to go and like spend the night there. And I told Joe, we should bring some boxing gloves and we should fight. And the thing is, like, Joe is actually has trained as a fighter. But what he didn't know, or maybe he did know, I can't remember because it's been some years ago. I tell you, I also enjoy fighting and I have always fought. My thing is, like, my goofy, skinny brown ass doesn't come across as a fighter. You know, I just come across as goofy. But when you look at Joe, you're like, Joe probably, like, will kill you. Joe is like, you know, like
He'll
I
tear
don't
your
want
head off.
No, like Joe is like such an awesome, sweet human being. He's one by far one of my favorite people that I met in my time in the military. And his wife is just like this sweet, like super uber cheerleader, friends with everybody and hearts everywhere. And Joe just is very rough.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't know what is it about me. It was like, Joe needs to be my friend. And I would try, like, that's the problem. I was trying. And then I would try so hard. Like, Joe, like, when are we going to hang out? Like, you know,
Yeah.
you guys with my wife, your wife, and all this other stuff. But I believe that one day that we had to watch over the ammo and spend the night there at this range, because then the next day the rest of the team was going to come over and, like, those were like the golden days of like Marine Special Operations Command, because we just had all the budget and so we got all the ammo and we would just shoot thousands of rounds in order to be proficient to do all the other things. Not that any of that matters, but it's different when you get to spend some time with a dude and then you're like, and now we're gonna fight.
Yeah.
And it was just really cool, and it was like really friendly, and it was not like, oh, like I'm gonna kick your ass and now like you're gonna be unconscious, but it was awesome. And you know, and it's really cool because I was always happy-go-lucky and goofy. Nothing had ever changed, but Joe was always very, very, very serious. But the one thing, and I will like, you know, Joy's not here, and Joyce is replying, you know, but
Joe, tell us what you think.
right, if Joe happens to be there. But I don't know that anybody else fought Joe.
Yeah.
Joe's tough. Joe's a tough son of a bitch. But I love competing in fighting, and that's why I box, and that's why I do boot night, and that's how I, you know, and that's how I torn my meniscus.
Right.
It's just like, and it's worth it, because to me, it just makes me feel alive. So
It's that like.
a great deal of love to Joyce. Thank you for tuning in, Joy. I appreciate you, and send my love to your two boys and your beautiful, awesome, and Care Bear of a husband. He's like a Frankenstein.
I want people tuning in. They want to hear more about Joe.
But to me, he's just, well, Joe's a tough son of a bitch. Joe said, you know, he's your, well, it's St. Patty's Day, and he doesn't get more Irish than my beautiful Joe.
Is he Irish? What's his last name?
He does. She said, we love you. Joe does too. He's just quiet about his loves. No. Joe Wade.
Wade. That's not even an
Joe
Irish
Wade.
last name.
Well, okay. Oh, excuse me. Oh, the hell. But You know, sorry. Does it have to
I'm
be
just saying.
McGuinness? I'm just saying, like,
I'm
well,
just
like
saying.
he's pretty white and pretty pasty and pretty freckly and
That
pretty
doesn't make him
red-headed.
Irish. It could be like 100 other European
No,
countries.
He's fairly Irish, man. I'm just saying, dude. He's fairly Irish. But you know, he to me, like Joe, is the epitome of like, you know, within like the Marine Corps values, honor, courage, and commitment. And he's just a really good dude. And he always put the well-being of his guys before anybody else's. And
Should we
you
call
would
him
think
right now?
that's he will
Do
be
we
so
need to
mad
call
at- He will be no. We're not calling Joe. We are not calling Joe. We are definitely not calling Joe. But no, but, you know, there's a number of times that I have thought of my buddy Joe Wade. You know, Joyce's husband. Because him and I will be the only one that will put time into. What we were doing, not that anybody cares for like the type of job that we had, and like there was all like with the shooting and all this other stuff. But Joe will take a time aside to talk about and train about all of this, like, you know, fist fighting and like, you know, when you don't have anything with you, or then all you have is with a knife, and this is how you go about it. And this is how you recognize, like, you know, aggressive like vibes from people in which, like, you know, you were always talking and studying and reading about like how criminal behavior and aggressive behavior, you know, was around you. And I grew up on that, but and Joe did as well, but Joe had a really good analytical way to break it down. And it's so funny that his sweet, awesome wife is watching, because, like, you know, because I have never actually told him, but I always appreciated how we'll break it down, because then I would make peace with those things and I will break him down into analytical pieces, and I would digest them in a way that how do I use that into my advantage for my previous line of work, you know, my previous chapter in my life. Because I was always like, oh, like, it's just Jaime. And it's like, no, man, I'll stab you in the throat. And I will do it again and over and over and over in order to maintain like my guys and my team safe. Joe was the epitome of that. You know, he amazing leadership, amazing poise, and he did the best that he could, and especially when having to like have a guy like me on his team.
I play games with you, Jaime. I know what it's like.
Right, like, yeah, when we're playing board games with me, what is Jaime gonna do?
Yeah.
Chaos, comfort,
Wild card.
combat. Yeah, and I don't mean to, but that is who I am. So, anyways, that's enough of that. I'm not gonna continue to embarrass Joyce, but thank you for watching. I appreciate you. She's all the way on the other side of the country, and Joe's a good dude, and happy St. Patrick's Day.
Well, cheers to Joe. Happy St. Patty's Day.
Happy St. Patty's Day.
So it's 7:27. I don't know how late you want to go. We've gone for an hour.
Okay.
I can
So
keep going if you want, or we can.
I have about between 20 to 30 more minutes of content, because now we're going to talk about the future.
Oh, okay. Let's do it.
Okay.
Blade Runner
That's why we
2045.
do these live.
Okay,
Blade
here we
Runner.
go. So, this is where we're at right now. You have a number of projects. You have worked with, like, no shit, the Olympics. On the local level, 3-4, you have worked with Reebok. You have worked with... you have?
No, not Reebok.
Wasn't
But
it?
it's okay. I mean, I've worked with companies, and
You work
they
with
have
companies.
names, and they're
They have
important
It
to
wasn't
some
Reebok?
people. And
I'm going to drink more.
here, yeah, I think you
Okay.
should. I've already
Alright.
tapped into my second beer.
You're
I'm
at-
surprised you're not even on that.
Because I'm doing most of the talking. I have to carry this interview,
Wait, we've
Nathan.
spent half this interview talking about Joe and how much you love him.
I fucking miss Joe. Dude, it's just like Joe was the guy on the
Okay,
team.
we're not doing this again.
He was the guy on the team that I was comfortable talking about violence. It was because everybody's talking about shooting. I was
Okay,
like, no,
okay.
Jaime, you gotta be able to fight people with
Here,
your own two hands.
Drink your beer.
I'm gonna
Relax.
You can come on any time.
I miss Joe. I miss Joe Wade.
Like, let's
I
get
am
through this,
sorry.
man.
Joe wanted to punch everybody in the face, and that made me so happy. And like everybody else didn't understand. I was just like, I understand you, Joe, because I also want to hit everybody
People are
in the
gonna
face.
walk away thinking this interview is about Joe.
Because it is in a little way. It's just like,
I'm just gonna say, let's quickly get on to some other content, because it looks like Joe's gonna be calling here soon.
Yeah, we
Oh my
should just
God.
call
I'm
Joe.
going to have him call you. No.
All right,
Joe Way, outstanding human being, and he was
the future Jaime.
He was a gift to Marine Special Operations Command, and I was so lucky to get to share time with him on the team at what is now known as 3rd Raider Battalion. Back then, it was known as 3rd Marine Special Operations Battalion, and he went on to continue to do great things over at 1st Raider Battalion over in the West Coast after I left. And I still to this day say I got to walk among giants and really had little to no impact, but guys like Joe are the guys that drive that community and continue to maintain a high standard even after he has retired, and you know, and the golden goal of like deploying, doing your job with while maintaining your honor clean and keeping everybody
Happy.
safe, and bringing dudes to their wives, to their mothers, and to their children.
That's huge,
alive,
man.
and with all their digits. So here it is to all the Joes and all the guys like him. Cheers.
Salud.
So we're going to talk about the future now.
The future.
Usually, you know, when I'm having this conversation with my guests, it's like, hey, what's going to happen, you know, 5-10 years from now? Where do you see, whether you're working with a company that is making an impact, or whether it's your own business, or whether you're a center of influence, or within your nonprofit, where is it that you see Nathan yourself? You don't have to talk in the third person. I'll do it for you.
Okay.
You know, moving the needle forward, whether it's a local level or somewhere else?
I don't know. I really am a little short-sighted in the sense that I've always wanted to be a creative director. I've always wanted to be a partner at or like own an agency, and I'm kind of at that point. And I got there a lot quicker than I thought I would have been. I mean, I graduated in 2012, so it's been less than 10 years, and I've gotten there.
Okay.
Something I've been doing recently that I think I want to do more of, and something I've always kind of toyed with the idea of, is education. I have been taking a lot more. I started taking a color theory class from a professor in Madrid.
Nice.
Which has been cool. Like, it's totally refreshed my chops. I feel like I'm kind of at this point where I'd like to stay with my agency as long as possible. Like, I really do appreciate my partner, Kelly Williams. Shout out Kelly Williams.
Kelly, get on the show.
No, he's been,
I'm starting to get drunk.
I noticed.
Yeah. Happens.
I mean, this is 7.2.
Yeah, and
I didn't realize that.
Well, I had a bottle of wine at my last meeting before I came over.
Well,
Over at Talaya. Yeah, that was my fault. And
anyway.
that's not why I was late.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love working with my partner. He's a great person to, it's whiskey.
That is whiskey.
He is a great person to work with. He's just got a really great process, the way he thinks about things. And I think what's cool is I've learned a lot through working with him, and I've really appreciated it. And I think I'm kind of in that weird spot where, like, I am still young enough to learn a lot more. I'm still in a position where I think in the next 10 years, if I can kind of maintain my focus, keep learning, keep growing, keep like educating myself, I'll get to that point where I feel like a Super Saiyan as a designer. You know what I mean?
I like it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like,
okay.
I'll like.
I like the Dragon Ball Z reference. I
Dude,
can appreciate
yeah,
it.
like
and
you'll just level up until
You
you
just
like
level
keep
up.
going and going. And
Yeah.
but no, like I just I think it'd be cool to travel and do a little bit more of this. I'd love to go to Europe for a little bit and like work in Germany or Spain or somewhere and try something different. But I don't know, man. I'm enjoying the journey. I really for a long time had this idea of what I wanted to be and who I wanted to be, and the day that I like stopped thinking about what my life needed to look like was the day that I actually started formulating the life that I have.
Yeah, that's deep.
Is that good?
That was really
Yeah.
good. Here.
And with that, a little bit of center fire whiskey love.
Salud.
Salud. And yeah.
Shout out to Justin
show it.
Grace and our friends over
Oh,
there.
you're
Yeah,
showing it.
there's
And to sweet baby James in the
and
back.
to
Baby
sweet baby James in the
James.
back. Happy St. Patty's Day, everyone. And I can no
Thank you.
longer drive home.
You want to ride, Jaime?
Totally worth it. It's okay. No, I'll take an Uber.
You're on the way.
Most certainly. Okay, I'll take it.
You're on the way home.
I will most certainly. My wife will be pissed. So, I dig it. I love it. I like it. I think that most certainly the opportunity for you to be not only in a leadership position, but also being able to influence and grow and mentor those who are coming into the business.
Dude, that's
You
actually
know.
the coolest part about like having. This is the first time in my life that I have people working under me, and it is the first time in my life that I like feel a little bit more of a sense of purpose in what I'm
You
doing.
can be somebody's Joe Wade.
Yeah, I can be Joe.
You can be somebody's
Look
Joe
out,
Wade.
Joe, here I come.
You know, you can be somebody's Joe Wade in an Argo. By the way, oh my God, another Joe Wade fun fact. He's an amazing artist.
Is he?
That's what he went to school for.
I need to meet Joe.
So Joe,
When is he coming to town?
I wish he was looking to perhaps move to Idaho after he left the Marine Corps, and then instead he's in some other state that is even far wider than ours. If you think that's possible, no, there's anything wrong with that. But well, actually there is, but that's okay because that's not his fault. He was just looking, for provide for his family and whatnot. With that said, what I was gonna say about that, I lost my train of thought.
Having mentors.
No, art. So he
Art.
used to. So he was in the Navy, and then he went into the Marine Corps. But prior to that, he went to school for art, and he's actually quite an amazing artist.
Painter, drawer,
Drawer, illustrator type.
Cool.
Yeah,
That's
I never
awesome.
saw him paint, but man, can he put some imagery in a fucking whiteboard.
Yeah.
And if you ever met my team chief and my team leader back in the Raider days, boy, did they love their fucking whiteboards.
No, yeah.
And man, could he just fucking create some shit.
I gotta tell you something, man. My favorite thing in the world is
Joyce is loving this.
at one point in time, Joyce, this is for you.
Joyce, no doubt, this whole episode is for Joyce. She's the best.
My favorite thing is I was designing. Actually, it's crazy. It's like right there that I was doing this, but I was designing an app when I first moved here, and I had this war room that was literally like floor to ceiling whiteboards, and I would go in there and I would like put up the designs that I had done, and I would like
Thing.
everything would be fucking mapped out, and it
Oh
would
my
just be this
gosh.
amazing. Dude, it was. I wish I had a room like that again.
Hey, you just got a new place. Talk to
I cannot do that.
talk to your special
You have a
lady.
wife. You have a wife.
Yes.
You know what that's like.
She rules with an iron fist. Yeah,
Yes.
that is true.
And
But
you
she's
have
worth
to-
it. Totally worth
Exactly.
it.
You have to love and appreciate
Yeah.
the like decision making.
She keeps me alive.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
have, clean clothes because of her. Not that I'm not capable of doing my own laundry, which I do. But at the same time, she
But
also
you're
makes sure
grateful
to let me know.
for
It's like,
having a
don't wear the
partner.
fucking thing that has a hole in the chest. And I'm like, fair enough.
Yeah. My girlfriend
Fair
comments
enough.
about 50% of my t-shirts that have holes in them.
Joyce says Joe still loves whiteboards,
Well, good.
as he should.
I love whiteboards too.
He's doing all the planning. He's doing all the things. God damn it, Joe Wade. I have not missed another leprechaun so much in my life.
What's his Irish descendants? How do you know he's Irish?
I'm just assuming because he's so white.
Yeah, that doesn't mean he's Irish.
Well, that's the thing.
Do you think that
oh,
I'm Irish?
Oh my God! Do you know how many people think I'm Mexican because my name is Jaime?
Wait, you're not Mexican?
I am not.
I'm
Nathan.
just kidding, Jaime. I knew that.
I know you don't know that, but can I do the same thing for fucking crying out loud and not get beat up for it? I'm just saying.
No, it's okay. We're white. We have that privilege. You can totally do that.
No. So, by the way, looking into the future, and we touched on that, and I love that, and I love how we were talking on mentorship, and then we transitioned to whiskey,
Which
Center
totally
Fire
ruined
Distillery.
everything, didn't it?
You're welcome, Justin Graves. That was the second to last interview on season 1, episode 30, probably, or 31. It doesn't matter. I cannot remember what I do. With that said, some of the fun stuff. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so you're looking into the future, and you're talking about all these other things.
Totally.
You have a lot of side projects.
Yeah.
Come on, let's talk about them. I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit. You've been drinking a little bit of beer. Just let loose. Don't worry about it. Tell the people at home on their devices, on their tablets.
I'm working with Bitter Creek Red Feather and Diablo as a side project. It's a fun
Here we
one. I've actually really enjoyed that. I get to tell you a whole nother story now.
Yes, you should.
When I was in high school, my first job was working on Donald Trump's golf course as a...
God damn it. Oh my God, this is... Okay.
Let me finish the story.
Listen, Idaho. Nathan is gonna finish his story. Over here are Argos Productions and my Idaho friends. We're anti-racist.
Who would have... Well, yeah, no one here is racist, I don't think.
Let Nathan finish the story.
I don't think I'm racist.
I just
for
wanted to
working
say
on
it
this.
out. It's not that we're like, we're staying in the middle. No, fuck that motherfucker. But, okay, go ahead.
It was an interesting time in my life. I was 14.
Go
my
on.
buddy, his uncle was a head chef, and it was the only job I could get at
Go on.
14.
Do
Because
your
my
thing.
parents were like, you got to work, and I had to get a job.
Do your
and so I did it.
Say it.
And so I started working in the restaurant industry. And I grew this fond appreciation for working in restaurants. Not because it was his restaurant, but because I liked working in restaurants.
Yes.
So then shortly thereafter, I graduated and I worked in 2 restaurants. So I'd work from 9 in the morning until 1 in the morning every night. And then I'd get off work and then I'd go do graffiti down the highway, the 405. And then I'd get done and I'd go to sleep for like 2 or 3 hours and I'd wake up and I'd do it all over again, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
And then I started working other odd jobs, and then I ended up in San Francisco, and I started working at this residency where I would have to cook for 135 people every night. And I loved it. Like, I love the process of cutting and cooking food and all of that sort of stuff.
I love that you loved it. Sorry to interrupt. Keep on keeping on.
But what I really appreciated about all those experiences was it kind of like led to other things. So like when I was writing about the cover of Bon Appetit during a political climate, full circle, back to the beginning.
Yes! And I love it. This is what this show is for.
So I did that. But then I had this roommate who would like cook all the time, and he would like cook these amazing meals, and then he would bring some of the food to the restaurants in town. And San Francisco has amazing restaurants, so he would trade the food, and that was really cool to me. So I started falling in love with like food culture, and then that kind of led to me realizing like as I grew up, my parents were really good cooks, and I kind of overlooked that a little bit. And as I got older, I was like, I love cooking, and they love cooking, and everything up to this point, like nutrition degree in my associates, like all of that has played a role in like me loving and appreciating food, and I found it to be this sort of secondary art form to design. And so now I get to work with restaurants. I have a friend, shout out Ursula Seiker, her restaurant Jeff and Jude's in Chicago. She let us come out right before the pandemic to help her build it out, and I did the branding for it, and now I work with Bitter Creek and Red Feather and Diablo, and I think it's really cool that they do a farm to table model, and I just think that the whole aspect of it is really awesome because food is like one of those things that like people sort of neglect to realize is like one of those things that bring people together. And it's like great because the more that I've gotten older, the more I'm like, I love doing barbecues and I love like cooking food all day because when people come over and eat it, it's like this family time.
Yeah, it is by far, you know, outside of sex with your partner. What? Too
It
much?
is. It's true. No, it's.
Okay, no. That wasn't. I wasn't expecting you to be like. "Ugh."
But I mean, outside of that,
outside of sex with your partner, that's just about in our age group. At least in my opinion,
it's beautiful. It's
about
beautiful
the
thing.
most intimate thing.
Right.
Like, I feel like such a jackass when I invite people over and then all of a sudden it's like, oh man, like, by the way, shout out to Flying Pie, but we're ordering some Flying Pie because I ain't got no time to cook.
Yeah.
And it's not because I ain't got no time, it's because I ain't got no skill.
And it's the thing.
Because my thing is smoking. And smoking
But I love
takes
smoking too. Let me
5
ask you
to
a
7
question.
hours for like my thing because I'm
Let
smoking.
me ask you a question.
Please do.
Are you building your fire or are you using a Traeger?
I am using a trigger-like device.
I have a smoker and I sit there all day and I feed my fire.
So okay, so you have like anywhere between 5 to 10 hours on me. I use pellets.
Right. So I'll go there and I'll build a fire with coals and then I'll put
like
it
you do the
in
coals.
and-
So it's like if you go back, and I'm gonna make you feel bad because we had you know, our guest Jade, Jade's truck, you know, outstanding, awesome, freaking pew 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 pew, firearms instructor.
Yeah.
And she is a model and a character on the last.
Is she the one with the shaved head?
Yeah, Modern Warfare.
Okay, to be fair, I watched a bunch of your videos today to like
As you should
understand
have.
what I was gonna go through.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, I know
so
who you're
she's on the
talking about.
Modern Warfare video
yeah.
game and all this sort of stuff. So I knew she was coming over, so I stepped up my game.
Okay.
And she, when in our interview, she's talking about like, oh my gosh, that's like the best meat I ever had. I smoked that shit for fucking 8 hours, homie. So of course that was the best fucking meat she got. But that was on purpose. I was just like, oh my god, like oh my. And her boyfriend, Rudy, her partner, is a fellow Marine. And again, perhaps, you know, history and a different episode for a different time. But him and I had met far in the past when I was a brand new Marine going through School of Infantry. And he had already gone through his experience in Iraq in the original, oh gosh, beer is hitting hard. In the original assault, okay, or invasion, however you want to call it. There's no way to freaking sugarcoat that.
Yeah, just that'll be what it is.
But he was part of that. And then there was an HBO show made about that called Generation Kill, which is also the name of a book, which is also a big ass article from this writer from Rolling Stone. You know, he's the guy that did the whole thing. And then Rudy played himself on that show, you know, time later after that. So Rudy and I had met each other before we met each other, because now he like, you know, we like come over and have drinks and, you know, we watch the telly and talk about the things, because, you know, him and Jade are here now. But it was just like that kind of thing, type of intense stuff. But Jade was here and she shared a great deal with us, and it was awesome and it was great. And now I am losing my train of thought because I've been drinking.
Smoking meat. We're talking about
Smoking meat. And she loved it and it was awesome. And again, thank you for that. So that I
thought you were the moderator in this
I
conversation.
am the moderator. I am very good at Nathan, I am very good at what I do. Don't you try, don't you dare.
Okay, I'll just say this. I appreciate the Traeger. I appreciate the like simplicity of it, and I do love it. But I have been really fixated on the idea of building fires and like slow cooking and figuring out that process, because I've been doing it for about a year now. And I love the fact that I have to wake up at 6 a.m, start a fire,
Yeah.
and figure it out.
So
you know?
you're using the coals, right?
Entirely cold.
Yeah, you're
entirely
okay,
fire.
that is fair. So I am not at that level because I really appreciate
Well,
the
and it's
fact
hard.
that I can use the pellets. Because if I'm spending, 4 to 6 hours, you are spending 6 to 10.
Yeah. And I like most of the time I don't get like I'll start at like 8 in the morning and get it going, but I won't be done until like 5 or 6 at night.
Yeah.
But when it's done, it's like I'm either super disappointed, I'm either super bummed out that I totally botched this, or I'm like amazed that this is the best thing I've ever made. You know what I mean? Like, it's
I
kind
do.
of a
I do
fine
know
line.
the reason why I love it. So, for example, our mutual friend Drew Lorona,
I don't
who
know.
was, fuck that guy.
No, yeah.
The tree for guy. No,
Yeah.
no. So he was one of my very first and early guests, especially during the pandemic when I was doing the show out of my basement instead of the studio. Thank you, Argos Productions. But when we had the baby, he had the baby, and I was like, yeah, man. I was fortunate enough that I was able to harvest an elk. I hunted an elk.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I could say it was in Idaho, but I did it in Oregon.
Oh.
I know. And it wasn't.
I
So
don't
I'm a
think
bow
it
hunter,
matters.
but I harvested that elk on a rifle hunt on my friend's ranch.
Mm-hmm.
Well, by the way, next interview, and it's going to be awesome. You guys are going to love it. But it was just one of those things. He was just like, holy shnikes. And he had his kiddo, and I was like, oh man, like we got to make some meals.
Mm-hmm.
And I just like prepping, and I'm a terrible cook, but man, I can smoke the shit out of someone's meat.
Yeah.
As long as I have pellets.
Yeah.
You can tell the alcohol is kicking because I'm skipping some consonants. We're not going to go into that. I'm going to point it out before you point it out. But it was awesome, and it was great. And now producer Erica is here.
I just want you to know you only have 10 minutes left.
We only have 10 minutes left. So,
There's something
anyways.
really important.
We did
do
the
it.
thing, and it was awesome, and he loved it, and I loved it, and there's a skill.
Well, here's the thing. Smoking meat is totally a skill, and it's awesome.
Yeah,
But it's I will say this. Using a Traeger is awesome because it gets done efficiently, and it's right, and it's like if you have kids and you don't have to sit there all day and like fuel the fire, totally fucking understandable. But what I love about that process is that, like, I feel like I'm digging a trench or, like, doing yard work or whatever, but it's got this, like, I don't know how to explain it. Other than when I became a designer and I would sit there and I would do designs for people all day and be like, here is your design. They'd be like, cool. And then I might never see it again. But when I would work on houses or paint houses or do construction work or drywall or whatever, there was this self-satisfaction of being like, I did that.
I will say it, and this is how we'll be closing down. There's a pull to our ancestors and other cultures' ancestors, whether it's tied by like friends or relationships or a number or anything in between. And there's something to be said about breaking bread
Yeah.
and sharing food and the process
Yeah.
of preparing that and sharing that with those who you love most.
Totally.
Because you're never going to be bringing over anybody to your fire or to your table that you do not like, love, or enjoy.
Totally.
So,
You are in good company.
with that said, you're in good company. Fam, thank you so much for tuning in. We most certainly appreciate you, and we most certainly love you a long time. Nathan Warner, shameless self-promotion. If there's anything for you to be said
This
right
camera?
now,
This camera?
this
This
camera,
camera?
no, just
This
here.
camera?
No, that one is your camera. That one is your camera. This
you
is
seen
your
Hot
time.
Ones?
And please do not be shy and highlight yourself and the company and everything, side projects, side hustles, and everything.
My
you're
name is
working on.
Nathan Warner. I appreciate you guys for watching this video. if you need design, branding, if you're starting a business, if you are trying to do something different with your life, please reach out. We would love to help you. We are at superbase.co, no M. And yeah, our goal is to make you the best brand you can possibly be. So give us a shout.
Google Superbase CO. Again, Superbase CO.
You forgot
and
the
do
dot.
thing.
That's the drunk talking, isn't it?
Superbase. You said Superbase CO.
.co.
God damn it. Superbase.
It's in the
Dot
link.
CO. It's gonna be on the
it's on the
link,
link.
and we put this on our YouTube channel. It's gonna be awesome. So
Google it.
Superbase.co. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you guys being part of the live stream. There's gonna be some more episodes coming up, and they're gonna be pre-recorded, and they're gonna be amazing as well. If you want to be on My Idaho Friends, please go ahead and reach out at Jaime at myidahofriends.com. And yes, I get it. This is not a Spanish-speaking town, but it's Jaime
Jaime.
at myidahofriends.com, also known as Jamie. Jaime at myidahofriends.com. Please do not hesitate. If you have a project or if there's something that you're looking into, Argos Productions can make it happen for you.
Here I go.
And there's going to be a link to that on the YouTube channel as well at the bottom. I am so getting a ride home. This is the best day ever. Happy St. Patty's Day.
Is this the first
For
interview
sure.
that he's getting a ride home?
No.
No.
We've had to.
No, I've been.
So number 2?
Or, did that make you feel special?
I want to feel special.
Yeah, absolutely. The first time
After talking
I'm
about
getting a
Joe
ride
this whole
home.
time, I just...
A couple other things too, or nonprofit, okay, the Alliance of Idaho, helping those who are most vulnerable. Go ahead, Google us. There will be a link. If you have the time and you actually have the means, please go ahead and help our immigrant population, the people that feed your tables with your actual food. They need your help. We are here to help them. Please help us help them. Last but not least, shout out to Argos Productions all over again. Jerica, Jeston, sweet baby James out in the back. Special shout out, of course, to our guest tonight, Nathan Warner. And I cannot thank you guys enough to be a part of all of this, especially you, Joyce, and my boy, Joe Wade, who clearly took about like 15 minutes of the 2 hours of our show, or however long it is, because I have no track of time, because I've been drinking and, happy St. Patrick's Day. For those of you who are watching who will watch hopefully later on our YouTube channel, thank you so much. Please help and please support us. We're happy to be there for you, and we'll be happy to bring you more content. We appreciate you. We love you a long time. And Idaho, when you get a chance, get out there and be kind to somebody. Thank you so much. Have a great night. I'm going to stop drinking now. I'm going to drink some water. Cheers.
Taking Jaime's drink.
Can't talk anymore. Oh my God.